Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. I am Abe with MysticGenMara.com, a small town mystic in the middle of Idaho, and I'm trying to find the music that I was looking for. This one. And tonight, sorry, had a little bit of a technical issue. I couldn't quite get everything moving the way I wanted it to, so now that we're here, tonight I would like to discuss a topic that I've been kind of obsessed with since I started my spiritual journey. And I've learned a fair amount, and so I'm going to bring to you some of the things I've learned. And if you are interested in leaving comments in the live stream or down below in the video if you're watching on replay, and just let me know kind of what you're thinking. And some of maybe even if you feel led to share, letting us know what type of rites of purification you have used in your life, in your practice. And this is going to be a little bit more interesting, I guess you could say. I have a basic outline for what I'm wanting to do, but it kind of depends on what happens here in the next little bit as to how we will go with this. So, get my chat turned on over here. Okay, so basically, the rites and rituals of purification for spiritual connection literally go back thousands of years. And it really depends, honestly, on which culture you wish to look at as to what those rites are. It's not a new topic, but there's information that we can still dig around and unearth about it, because I feel like the more that we learn about our history, the more we can understand where we're headed in the future. And I feel like for us to forget or to not look to the past to understand it a little bit better, we're not actually able to fully comprehend where we're headed. We need both sides of that coin type of a thing. And I am speaking right at the moment about spiritual purification, but you can use the concept of looking to the past to understand the future and apply it to a lot of things, actually. And purification, especially the last couple of years, has been huge. Everyone wants to sanitize everything. But that's not always a good thing when it comes to physical health. Sometimes having a little bit of dirt in your system is not a bad idea. Helps keep your immune system strong. But I'm not a doctor, so that's just the ramblings of a crazed mystic. But one of the older ones, and if you come from a Christian background, this is not a foreign concept to you, and that is the Jewish people's practices, especially when they were wandering around in the desert for 40 years. Excuse me. And they were given the Day of Atonement, or, and I might butcher this and I apologize to those watching, the celebration of Yom Kippur. This was a day for purification and forgiveness for the entire nation. This was not just a one person is going to sacrifice a animal on an altar to forgive themselves or their family. This was a day where, according to the rituals of that time, and if you're interested in learning a little bit more about this, you can check out Leviticus chapter 16. I use the New King James Version if I'm going to be reading out loud. If it's just for me personally, I like the Old King James. The Old English is just so much fun to read. But that's just where I'm getting some of this information. There would be a period of repenting. There would be a period of basically dietary restrictions for the priests and the high priest, because you needed to get yourself cleaned up and cleared out. And then on the day of, there would be a pretty significant ritual where you would take 2 goats. One would get sacrificed as an offering to Yahweh. The other would take all of the sins of the entire tribe of Israel. All 12 tribes would go onto this one goat. and this goat would be then taken away from the tribe. As miles is one of the references that I've looked up, and it would be let go, and it would be the scapegoat, which today we have a scapegoat concept, which is the one person that takes the blame for the entire group. This is where it originates from. And that goat was never to be seen, touched, handled, acknowledged again. That's why they would take it so far away from the tribe and release it out there so it would go away. And it would take the sins of the people with it. The other goat would be sacrificed, and there's a huge amount of rules that go along with how the animals would be sacrificed, how they would be offered, the burnt offering, all of that stuff. And like I said, you can find most of that in Leviticus throughout the book. The Leviticus is the rules for the Levites, which was for the Jewish people. For most, well, some of them are still practicing a lot of that today, just not the sacrifice part. But then the high priest would take parts of the offering and some other offerings and incenses and things like that into the holy place, which in their temple was the outer chamber. And there would be a specific clothing regiment that would have to be gone through. Certain offerings would have to be given. The other priests would come along, changing some stuff out, prepping it for the big one, which is when the high priest would go into the most holy place, which he was the only one allowed in there. And so if the people had not given up all of their sins, or the high priest had some secret little sin he hadn't asked for forgiveness for, bad things would happen. And there are traditions, and I can't remember because I didn't dig through all this, but there is traditional belief that the high priest, when he would go into the most holy place, which is where the Ark of the Covenant would sit and a whole bunch of other specific goodies, he would wear a bell so that they would know that he was still alive as he's walking around in there. And I've read in some theologians' beliefs that there would be a rope tied around the high priest's ankle, so that if something did happen and he didn't offer proper atonement and he was struck down, they could at least get the body back out of the holy place, most holy place. So the purification rites for that particular situation were extreme, strict, and followed to the letter. You did not want to oops something, because if you did, it was basically a sentence. You were done. So that was a rite of purification for a nation. Now, there were individual rites of purification. There were rules about what kind of sin would offer what kind of offering, everything from a turtle dove up to a bull cow, or bulls are the male version, cows are the females. Anyway, but you would have different rules for different ways of releasing your sin in that tradition. Now, there's other ways in other cultures that they've looked at this. And it is a strongly held belief, and this is not one that I follow to the letter, because I think there's more than one way to go through a rite of purification. But there is a strongly held belief out there that true purification can only be achieved through very specific ritual practices and patterns. Ritual preparations leading up to a spiritual practice, which lead to deeper connection to the divine source of all, creator of life. And so you take these practices very seriously. Now, before I go scaring people away from this concept, ritual is, and the way I'm using it here, a conscious practice with a set pattern that you do in your daily life. It is a way to separate you from the mundane and the everyday. Washing your hands or taking a shower after work can be a ritual where you basically wash away the stresses, the day, just give yourself that time to clean off whatever was going on that day. You can smudge your house on the season changes to refresh and purify the home. And you can smudge using sage, white sage, or wild sage. You can use sweetgrass. I personally am not a fan of the sweetgrass, but find what works for you. Your meditation practice can be a ritual, and through meditation practices you can use those as rites of purification as well. But a ritual is a conscious habit with a specific structure that separates you from the mundane. So when you step into that ritual space or into that ritual practice, you're literally telling your conscious and your subconscious mind, the everyday, my work, my home, whatever, I'm stepping away from that because I want to connect to the divine. So, and we'll get into some more details here in a second. Sorry, a little dehydrated today. So why do we bother with purification? Why do we look for it? Why do we practice it? Simply put, especially in a spiritual context, we're doing it to remove the energetic gunk, the trash, the pollution, the psychic Klingons that you just want to throw away, push it away. And if you've ever watched a horror movie, read a horror novel, you'll understand the concept of a house blessing, which cleans out the previous owner's energy and negative essences that may remain. If you would clean your house of negative energies, why wouldn't you do that to your aura field as well? And by cleaning your aura field, you actually will affect your physical body, because your aura is the outward extension, the outward bubble, if you will, of the physical form. It anchors to the physical body through the chakras and through some other subtle energy, so to speak, anchor points. Well, if it gets into this out here, the woo-woo space, it will eventually get into your system. Now, again, this is metaphysics talking, but Louise Hay knew this at a very deep level, that our subconscious mind, which is very sensitive to our aura fields, would respond to our physical body in a negative way if the aura was dirty, dingy, gunky, things like that. So, that is why we want to work on the concept of purification. Now, negative places, negative people, even food can carry dirty energy into your field, into your mind, and into your body. Too much of this spiritual pollution can lead to physical illnesses, as well as a whole list of other spiritual issues. And that's where you can, if you're bombarded constantly, it can actually weaken your auric field, which is what keeps a lot of the negative gobbledygooks, the little spooks, out. And if it's weakened too much, then you can start stepping into some more dangerous environments that I won't go into here, because again, I don't want to scare people, but there are steps to certain extremely negative things that generally start by your aura field being polluted. Ed and Lorraine Warren are kind of where I'm going with that. So, anyway, have you ever been in a really great mood and you're riding high, you're having a great day, everything's just doing great? You shake one person's hand in a business meeting, and the rest of your day is complete garbage. One handshake. And you can't figure out why. But if you are empathic and you have your intuitive abilities have woken up, your spiritual awakening has begun, you're going to be more aware of this energy. And when that one person triggers that, and you start thinking back, well, I was really in a good mood this morning. What happened? Well, I did this, and I was still doing good. Went to this business meeting, shook all these people's hands. I shook this one person's hand. Oh, But then you notice that that person, when you shook their hand, was miserable already, and now it's spread. And it can be something as dramatic as that, where one person can literally shift your entire energy field. Not always. If you're prepared and you've set yourself up and you've started working the different rites of purification, it's going to make it harder for that stuff to get in, and that's what we're looking for. Keep the negative out. So this is ideas that I like to do when I get done with anything. I work with the public in my day job, and I have for years. I've always had some kind of either waiting tables, working like bartending, working with the public in an educational matter, retail. You're always, my life is run, is I've always been in the public field like that. And I used to collect everyone else's garbage, but I started figuring some things out on how to keep it away from me and how to clear it out better. And it started about 20-ish years ago when I started on my spiritual journey, because these were things that started to pop up real quick. When you have an empathic mind, when you have an intuitive ability, you are a magnet for this kind of energy, because people see you as someone who can help them. You need to work on yourself too. I can help you a little bit, but you keep your energy over there. I don't want it. And that's where the healthy boundaries come in. But when you get done with work and you get home for the evening, or if you've been at a business or some kind of situation where you're shaking a lot of hands, or people are doing the whole hand pat you on the back thing, or any of that, you want to take some time to clear that energy. Positive, negative, doesn't matter. You do not need to be overwhelmed by that. And a really simple way to do this, and if you can't do cold water, I can't, so but it's really good just to even wash your hands in as cool of water as you can tolerate. Some people will tell you ice cold is the best because it helps pull that energy away. And you want to wash from about your elbow down. Just water. You don't need soap for that. I mean, you can use soap if you want, because then you'll get your any germs that they may have handed you as well gone. But you really want to do that with the cold water and wash from your elbow to your hand. So you're sloughing the energy down, and you're washing it into the sink, so it's going away. And as you're doing that, visualize like an oily film being sloughed off of your skin and going down the drain. And release anything. If you feel a little hiccup, or you feel like I'm just so tired, as you're doing it, let that whatever it is go away with it. And you'll notice that a lot of the times, if you're feeling drained after these events, just doing a practice like this will refresh you, because you're getting rid of that excess energy. And you can use visualizations with this. One of the ones that I use when I'm doing this particular practice is I will take, as I'm sloughing the water down, I'll put blue light in the moving hand. So there's blue light moving down, and it's healing, clearing, and protecting you from any of that energy coming back. Usually doesn't. I have only had that happen a couple of times, and there were some other issues going on there. So, but do that from your elbow to your hand. That way it just washes that stuff off. And that's a simple way, so you don't have to go take a shower or go through all the rest of it. I recommend doing that when you can. But this is kind of like, okay, you just got done with the meeting, go wash your hands type of a thing. And that's a simple way to just clean up as you go through the day. Pretty simple. And if you work with people in those situations, retail, therapy, especially if you're doing psychology or counseling, you really want to pay attention to those type of situations. And even if it's in between clients or customers, you probably should go do that anyway, if you can get the time to do that. Or if you're in a situation, and this is going to sound a little bit weird, and I'm going to be careful with how I say it, just because I don't want anyone getting too offended, but if you're in a situation where end of life is common, whether it's as a butcher in a grocery store meat market, or as a mortician where you're having to handle the bodies, you're in that respectful mindset, and you're dealing with the family members as well, you really should be aware of the rites of purification for just the germ part of it is first of all, but also from the energetic standpoint, because working in those type of high stress, especially in end of life situations, that energy can be extremely draining to your personal field and can cause other forms of energy issues. So you really want to work with that. Now, going along with that, we'll start into just kind of going over some everyday basic purification rites. And number one, and I am horrible at this one in particular, so this is something I have to work on as well. But keeping your home clean, neat, and orderly, and as free from clutter, this is where I fail, as possible. Doing that allows the energy within your home to flow freely. You don't get pockets of stagnant air or stagnant energy, and it's just a way to really make you feel better. You want your home to be a safe haven, kind of like your nest, and keeping it orderly, clean, and etc. You're going to have a better experience in that situation. And like I said, this is stuff that I have to work on too. So, you can drain off negative energy through ritual baths as well. So if this is just for a personal thing and you're feeling kind of heavy that day, and you washed your hands, it's not clearing off of you. Bath bombs are super convenient ways to cleanse the aura. Of course, you want to get natural, organic if you can, and if nothing else, you can always get basic Epsom salts, and those will help draw the negative energy and just make you feel better in general. But you want to make sure that if you're using something that has a colorant in it, you want natural colors. If you're using something with scents, you want natural essential oils, and that's the reason just sometimes using the basic Epsom salts in your bath with essential oils are usually enough to, clean you off and help ground some of that energy out, because the salt is it's a form of magnesium, but it's also a chloride, so it's a little, or sodium. Anyway, what it does is it draws the negative energy away, as well as it cleans your system up, according to the paperwork on it. But in an energetic sense, it will help draw the negative energy out, and it will absorb itself, the negative, into the salts. And so then when you get out of the bath, it literally will drain all of that negative energy out. So if you're going for ritual baths, there is a pattern that I have found works better than others because of the process. And when you're dealing with rituals, the process is just as important as the practice. So when you're doing a ritual bath, you add your bath bombs or your Epsom salts or essential oils at the very beginning as the water is filling. You put about this much water in the bottom of the tub, and then you add your stuff. You always want to swirl for positive, cleaning, purifying energy in a clockwise manner to really infuse the positive energy into the water as it fills. And as you're doing that, if you are a Reiki practitioner, you can add Reiki to the water. You can speak light language or sing soul songs. As you're doing that, you're adding more oomph to the purification and the clearing process. And if you're uncomfortable or unfamiliar with those, you can just simply, as you're swirling in the water, just visualize pure white light with some gold energy in it coming out through your hand into the water, and just seeing it spread through the water, so you're getting this white gold bath energy. And these are steps that you can take. If you don't feel comfortable doing the visualizations, that's fine. Just telling you what I've done. And then once you get the water to the right depth for your comfortability, I am really not good with words today. Just hop into the bath and allow yourself to relax. Make sure that if you've got kids, that they're doing something else with the other parent. If you are alone, just make sure that you can set yourself up to relax as much as you can. Play soft music, have calming incense, or however, just so you can allow yourself to truly relax. And as you're doing this, you want to release the tension of the week, the day, or the month. Now, personally, I don't recommend doing this type of bathing more than once a week, because anything more than that, to me, is a little excessive. Now, if you're doing a specific practice ahead of, like you're working towards a practice, it may become more necessary to do it more often, but normally once a week is enough to really clean you out and get you set up for the next week. So as you're bathing, you're just allowing anything to come out, any visualizations that are coming forward, any thoughts, ideas that might be a little bit rough, allow those out and allow them into the water. Any emotions that come up, and this is a key one that they usually leave out in a lot of conversations when it comes to ritual practices, but when you're doing this type of bath, any emotion that comes forward, allow it to come out. Whether it's laughing, whether it is crying, whether it is anger, allow it to come forward and drain into the salts. So you're just allowing this stuff to flow out of you at this point. Now, when you're done, and this is where I believe that the practice needs to go along with the ritual a little bit more. You can open the drain, remain in the tub. You can stand up if you want, but make sure your bathroom is warm enough, because you want to stay in the tub until all the water has drained out. And this may sound a little bit weird, or like, why am I still in the tub after I'm letting the water out? Shouldn't I get out? No, for a reason. As the water is draining, it is taking the negativity with it. If you're still in the tub sitting down, or you're standing up, and as the water's kind of like dripping off of you, it's taking the residuals out with it. And once it is drained out, then you can, get a towel, dry off as you normally would. But for this type of ritual, you want to actually stay in the tub and let the water out, so that your conscious mind, not your subconscious, is aware that you are releasing this negative energy out of your system. Now, with this will take a longer period of time than a standard quick bath or shower, because what you're doing is a ritual of purification, a rite of purification, if you will, and you're cleaning not just your physical body, but your energy field. And doing both of them at the same time is convenient, but it is going to take a little bit longer, because your energy field, especially in a subconscious way, needs to have that pattern, that ritual, to be like, oh, I can let this go. Look, we're in this safe spot. We're calm. All the right stuff is in here, so we can just let it go. So that is a ritual bath basics. And you can make these as complicated as you want. This is a simple version. But it's one that I like to do, for me personally, once a week, once a month. Depends on my month, or depends on the week. Like last week was a rough week. That happened. Just because it needed... things were not great last week. Much better this week, so I might not do this ritual bath this week. Another thing that you can do is meditation on a Hindu mantra, and they can be purification rites. And I'm saying specifically Hinduism, and a lot of people I've had people tell me, well, I don't want to be a Hindu. Sanskrit is not Hindu. The Hindus have figured out, because they have one of the oldest continually practiced religions or spiritual practices in the world. They have figured out phrases, tones, and noises that vibrate within the body to cause change. There's most of the stuff you find out there right now is for positive. I do know that there's some other stuff, but that's because I went down some interesting paths. Do not recommend those paths. Even if you're doing something before a practice like a meditation or even healing work for yourself or for another person, using these Hindu mantras can be extremely beneficial. The basic term that most people associate with transcendental meditation or Hindu meditation is the term Om. And this is a very clearing, a very cleansing, and a very grounding tone. The sound, according to the Hindu myths, is the sound of creation of the universe itself. Shiva made this sound and the universe sprang forth into full creation. And when you're doing this, it's not just saying, get it out of your throat. And this is the one thing with chanting and meditations and mantras that you want to remember, especially when you're using the Hindu ones. You're not repeating a phrase or an affirmation, you are chanting a vibration, a sound frequency. And when you do this, you take the noise from your throat and you drop it into your chest and abdomen. When that happens, the tone changes. You're vibrating your chest, your lungs, and your abdomen when you do this. For example, the term Om, which is usually written O-M, it is said A-U-M when you use the tonal frequencies. And so, when you do that, you're going to bring the sound from your throat into your chest and abdomen. Taking a deep breath in, and we'll just do this a couple of times just to kind of get you an idea of what I'm talking about with the vibration. Take a deep breath in, and as you exhale, and as you're doing that, feel the vibration in your lips, feel the vibration in your throat, feel the vibration around your heart chakra. Take another deep breath in, and again, When you feel that, you complete 2 or 3. You can do more if you want. Just doing 2 or 3 of those, you're going to notice a couple of things immediately. 1, your shoulders, even if they're up, are going to want to drop. Your muscles in your neck and shoulders are wanting to let go. The sound is healing in the Hindu myths. From personal experience, it's healing. When you breathe deep into your belly and you're exhaling that vibrated sound, you are vibrating the field around you, your auric field. You are shifting it into a higher frequency. The energy of Shiva is the energy of life and the energy of creation. If you are working on a manifestation, you're doing visualization, vision boards, things like that, chanting Om for 3, 6, 9, 13, or 108, depending on what you believe. 108 is the number of beads on a Hindu mala, and that is, I think there's 109, but you're not supposed to say the last one. So you go through and you are chanting a phrase, the Om frequency, or one of the other ones 108 times. When you do that, and I've done it, so I can say this from my experience, when you do that, your awareness shifts. You go from your beta brain, the monkey mind, the one that never shuts up, into an alpha state, and depending on which mantra you're doing, it can actually shift you into a almost theta state. So it literally can shift your awareness, setting you up for meditation, setting you up for other ritual work. But those type of chants, especially the Om one, is in its own essence a purification rite, a healing rite, an energetic, of course, and a manifestation rite. So just that one phrase can literally create a lot of things. But from experience, and your experience might be different, but this is my experience, it has to be done full breath, full vibration, getting it out of your throat into your chest so that you feel those vibrations, and it does make a difference, and you will feel a difference. Just as a little note there. Anyway, you can also do things like meditation on an avatar or a deity as a rite of purification. There are people who will meditate on the Archangel Metatron. He is the angel of ascension, the angel of spiritual awakenings, and he is a pure being. Was human, now angelic. So that is one way of looking of purification. There's also working with specific deities. I will not reference specific deities. If you want to, you can go through and use like Yahweh. You can use Jesus, you can use Mother Mary, or you can pick a saint that resonates with you and meditate on that. Those are ways to help spiritually and mentally work through purification. Sometimes it'll trigger an energetic purification in your auric field as well, but those are ways to start the process. You can, once you start your meditation practice, call down white light to be surrounded by the angels. It's another way to clear out that space around you so you feel better. And I did a video on sacred space back in December, and if I can find it, I'll link it in the comment section. But in that video, I talk about using sacred space and building sacred space as a rite of purification, because to build sacred space, you can't do it when you're gunk. The ritual, and I use ritual a lot because through ritual we become aware. The ritual of creating sacred space is a ritual of purification in itself, but you're doing so in a conscious knowledge that you want to do a specific work. So you're doing this creation of sacred space, and as you're doing that, you're clearing yourself and your physical environment as you go through that process. And I believe the video's title is Sacred Space a Meditation or Sacred Space a Practice. I can't remember which. But I did two different videos. One is describing the basic concept of it, and the second one is a guided meditation that takes you through the actual practice. So something to check out if you're interested. One more way, and then we'll probably wrap this up because we're getting a little long-winded here. Another way of doing purification for yourself and for your home is the smudging concept. Now, you can use, as I said before, sage or sweetgrass, and if you go to a natural health store or a metaphysics store, there are literally dozens of smudge sticks. There are smudge sticks with rose, there are smudge sticks with lavender, there are smudge sticks with other florals, there are smudge sticks with sandalwood, there's Palo Santo, there's sweetgrass braids. Those are a little bit more metaphysical, so your mystic shops, but I have seen them in health food stores as well. And you can also use a variety of incenses if you like those. Nag Champa is a great one. It was actually developed for a purification. I have some of my friends who like to use it to hide other scents, but that's another story. And if Nag Champa is a little too intense for you, because it has like 12 or 13 different herbals in it and resins, so it gets a little overpowering if you're not used to it or you don't like that kind of stuff, you can use frankincense and myrrh. They come in little tiers, little chunks, which are resin chunks. And those you'll take little charcoal there's a specific incense burner discs. They're about yay big, about a quarter disc size, and you can sprinkle some of the resin on there, and it will release slowly this beautiful scent. Frankincense and myrrh, they're not just biblical gifts to a king. There's a reason that they were gifts for a king. Frankincense and myrrh in some traditions, and this is where I started working with them, these two fragrances in this capacity, are called temple incense. In a lot of the older churches, when you'd see them with their incense burner where they're walking and swinging their little burner and there's the cloud of smoke following the priest, it was generally one or both of these. So the older churches and temples, especially the Catholic ones, have a very distinctive aroma. It's literally baked into the stone, I feel like. And it was frankincense and myrrh, one or other or both. They make frankincense and myrrh oil individually, but I believe it's Arakasha, but I can't swear to that because they've been changing some of the branding here lately. But there's one of the essential oil companies that actually makes a blend of frankincense and myrrh oil, and it's called meditation oil or temple oil. It is expensive. One little dram bottle of it is going to run you about $25-30. It's worth it. If you have a little incense or a oil burner, you can put a couple of drops in there and then do your meditation, and you're going to notice, well, in theory, you'll notice a difference because it is a conscious shifting blend of fragrances, but that's what its purpose is. It is to help you understand and shift. Those two scents are purification by themselves. They clear your aura field, just having them being burning. They will help you relax your mind. They're beautiful fragrances and scents. The reason that they're so expensive is they're hard to come by. I mean, we've gotten better now at our agriculture, but there's a process to collecting the frankincense tears and the myrrh resin, and it is not easy. It's getting better, but it's still not easy. So the other thing that you can do is some places, some health food stores and some metaphysical shops will have purification sprays. I made this one, and you can spritz those around. A little bit too much around my face. Anyway, and they will help you calm. Like, I keep this right here by my door when I come in from work, especially right now I'm working retail during the day, and I take my shoes off, and this is the next thing that happens. So it's like, shoes off, put those aside, spritz myself down, like just energetically clean off some of the excess of the day, and then I go on with my evening. I will see clients, I will do videos like this, things like that, but that's how I come home. I don't want to bring the outside work nonsense with me. Clear it off right at the door. So it's little things like that that can help especially when you're starting out and you want to really deepen your spiritual experience. And I'm not saying you have to do this, but these are some exercises, some practices, some rituals that I have found over the years help me when I'm preparing for study. When I take my course that I took a couple years ago, 3 years ago, for aura readings and that type of energetic healing work, I would do meditation before I even started. When we would do group events, they were video calls, but I would always set up a time beforehand to do meditation, to do clearing, to do my own rites of purification. So when we would get into that space, we were there, or I was there. I didn't know what other people did, and that's fine, but that was how I approached it. When I do oracle and tarot readings, I have a system that I do, prepping me, and then I go through my deck that I'm working with the person on, and I do a purification on myself and on the deck so that the energy is clean. There are a bunch of different ways you can do that, and One of the more common ones, like people will do this with their crystals, they'll sage them when they first get them. They'll put them under moonlight. My recommendation is sunlight first, moonlight second, so that you're charging and clearing together. And then, like I said, the saging is great for them. Some crystals you have to be careful with. They don't like moisture, so you can't wash some of them, but that's, a whole different story and a whole nother topic. But even with crystals, there are practices for purification, for clearing, for cleaning. These are simple ones. When you're saging your house, the one thing that I will say, just from my practice and my experience, open the front door. Start at the front door and open all the windows, because what you're going to do is you're going to drive everything else out. So whenever I've done this, my current apartment I can't, because they don't want me looking like I'm burning the house down. But open all the windows, open the front door and the back door. Starting at the front door, you're banishing, you're clearing things out. So you go counterclockwise, and you start at the front door and you go around, and as you pass the window you close it, as you pass the door you close it, and you're doing that. You'll go upstairs, downstairs, however your house is arranged, in every room. Close all the windows as you sage the room. Go all the way around counterclockwise to the front door. As you're going out to the front door, making sure all the windows are closed after you, you're driving the negative energy out the door. It's gone. You don't want to see it anymore. You're clearing out the stagnant energy. You're clearing out the winter. It's ready for spring. And once you get everything out the door, you have two different options. And depending on where I'm at and what my living situation is, if I have the weather nice, it's on my side, I will literally leave the bowl with the last, it's usually a stub about 2 inches long when I'm that point, of a sage stick, smudge stick, and I will leave it burn with the front door open and just let it kind of keep everything clear and let the fresh air in, kind of balance everything. If the weather decides to become grumpy at that point, you can step outside with a smudge, put it out outdoors, and then close the door and go about your day. But when you do that type of a smudging ritual, you're literally driving out the negative, you're driving out the stagnant, and having all the windows open to begin with gives anything that's in the house that you want out ample opportunity to GTFO. So those are some ideas, some concepts, and basics of different practices. If you are interested in this further, just let me know in the comment section below, and I can do a little more deep dive into specific areas. I've studied purification rites for about 4 or 5 different practices, ceremonial and non-ceremonial, and so I have a basic idea of a lot of it. I've practiced some of them myself. There's some I still practice today. Some of them, there was just too many steps and too much effort, or too much supply that needed to go with it, and they became real expensive real fast, so those got skipped. And what I found is you work with what works for you. If it doesn't work for you, don't do it. And when I say work for you, try it 4 or 5 times. Purification rites, sometimes it takes you a little bit to realize what's clearing out before you can understand what the process is that's actually happening. So doing it once and I didn't feel anything. How cluttered is your aura? How cluttered is your spiritual bubble? Because if it's real cluttered, that one rite may have taken a lot out, but there's that much there. So you want to give it time to do its work. But let me know in the comments if you're interested in more of this. If you enjoyed this video, please drop a like on it, and hit the subscribe button if you want to know when I'm going live, when I'm dropping videos, things like that. And I will talk to you guys in a future video. Have an awesome rest of your evening or day or afternoon whenever you're watching this, and I will see you later.